Hey y'all, it's Danielle Bennett, also known as BBQ, and today I'm going to teach you how to make a rack of my honey chipotle flavored ribs. Super simple and easy from the start to the finish and everything in between. All right, everybody. So when it comes to a rack of ribs, we've got a St. Louis cut. So a really simple St. Louis cut rib. The membrane has been completely removed. You can check out my other video on how to do this. Now it's time to get this all seasoned up. And how I do it, I love to spritz my meats, my ribs specifically, with a little bit of fruit juice first. All right, so we've started off with putting our ribs meat side down, bone side up. We're gonna give these a generous spritz of lots of apple juice, making sure we saturate the whole rib, all the sides. And then it's time to go with our seasoning. This is our homemade honey chipotle rub. Chipotle, however you want to say it. We want to be fairly generous with this. All right, so we have flipped our ribs over. I've spritzed them with apple juice. I put one layer of rub on. Now I'm just going to do another light layer. And we're about to go to the grill, but wait. Here's a couple of tips when it comes to making the best ribs ever. If you're using a wood-fired pellet grill like I'm using the Traeger's today, you always want to make sure you go cold to cooker. Don't let your meat come up to room temperature. You're going to reduce the amount of time that you can get that wood-fired flavor in these ribs. Now, when we go to the grill, I'm going to show you another trick to get the most succulent, delicious, thick ribs. So we've got our rack of ribs here. I've got the Traeger Pro here. And basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna put them on at 225 degrees. But here's a tip. Don't just lay these on the grill. Put them on the grill and then do the DQ squish. Now you can see how long these ribs are. If you actually take a moment just to squish them together, you'll end up with a much thicker rib and end up with a much more moist, succulent product at the end. So don't just flop them on like that. Literally give them a DQ squish. So we have another rack of ribs here on the grill. These ones have been on for about 3 hours, 225 degrees, and every about 45 minutes, I've actually opened up the grill and spritzed it with apple juice. Now at this point, when the color is beautiful, deep, rich red mahogany and all that bark's developed, now is the time to wrap your ribs. All right, so our ribs just came off the grill. They've been on there for about 3 hours, 225 degrees. Now, the internal temperature is something that a lot of people aren't familiar with when it comes to measuring ribs. So what you wanna do if you wanna base it just on temperature, is you wanna go in between two bones. Now that temperature should read about 160 to 170 degrees internal temperature. And that's usually where we are right now. See, all the bark's developed on the outside, and now it's time to add great flavor to the wrap. All right, so when it comes to making ribs taste even better, you can add as little or as much as you want to the foil. Now I've got a piece of foil. This is heavy duty foil. Don't ever buy cheap foil. It's just not worth it. And it's about half a foot on either side of the rack of ribs. So we're gonna be piling in some stuff right here in the middle. So we're gonna start off with a little bit of brown sugar. About a 1/4 cup or so. Then we're gonna layer up a little bit of honey. So we've got two very different types of sweet. We've got brown sugar and honey. Honey gives you that sticky barbecue thing. A couple tablespoons there. There we go. Now, some unsalted butter. That's gonna give you a lovely succulent, texture to your ribs. Now here's another thing I absolutely love to add to rib packages. And also, by the way, this works really well for pork butts. This is apricot preserves. Makes for a lovely wrap, and it's gonna melt once it hits that hot rib, okay? So now we're gonna put our ribs on there, meat side down, because we wanna get them sitting in all that deliciousness. So pop your ribs on there, give them a little press down, and then we're gonna repeat. Pop your ribs down, give them a little press down, make sure that, they're sitting right in all that goodness, and then we're gonna repeat the ingredients on the bone side. So take one side of your rib foil and pick it up, and the other side. This is a fairly wide rack of ribs. And then what you want to do, nice and neat. Because the whole thing is, we're going to actually be measuring by temperature, not just time. So we want to make sure we can actually get back into this package. So foil meat, fold it over nice and neat, just like that. At our one end here, you can see, nice and clean fold, okay? There we go, nice and neat. Now at the other end, make yourself a funnel, because we literally want to work easier, smarter, not harder. Make yourself a funnel. All right, so our ribs are wrapped at one end and we've made a funnel at the other end. And now we're just gonna pour in about half a cup of apple juice, regular unsweetened apple juice. Just like that. There we go. And now our wrapped ribs are ready to head back to the grill. Now today I'm using hickory wood pellets in my grill. I'm putting these back on the grill now to finish cooking. You can use whatever pellet you like or whatever flavor, it's your house. I just love the flavor of hickory, oak, cherry. You know, I have my favorites and I'm sure you have yours. So, ribs are in our package. They are meat side down, bone side up. And now it's time for them to do everything for about 2 hours. All right, all. Our ribs have been on for about 2 hours in the package, in the foil itself. So now it's time to open these beauties up. And let's take a look at all of this goodness, okay? So the ribs themselves can go back on the grill if you want. You can sauce them. For me, personally, I'm good with this. I don't think they need any more sauce. I think that interior package made a beautiful gloss all the way across. We've got beautiful bones on here. We got gorgeous color. Take a look at all of that delicious bark. Now that is a succulent rack of ribs. Make sure you follow me on all those social media channels at BBQ on Instagram, at BBQ on Facebook, at BBQ on Twitter.